Paddy, I suppose, is famous for saying a grain of rice will tip the scale. And on a day like that, when you're playing against Dublin, it is down to things like that. The tiniest little things will have a ripple effect through the game, and that will decide who wins or who doesn't. Attitude is massive. You do need luck. You always need luck. You won't win an All Ireland with no luck. You need to look, but you need to perform as well. And you're also hoping that the other team, maybe they don't come out and perform at 100%. Maybe Rock sticks a few wide. Maybe their backs foul Clifford a few more times than they want to.
Okay, so welcome back to the podcast. My name is Aaron. I'm joined here by Daniel from the Kerry Franchise Instagram page. Here to talk all things Kerry ahead of the upcoming championship. I suppose, first of all, Daniel, how are you keeping?
Not too bad, Aaron. We're tipping away like everyone else. Thanks a million.
Perfect. I'd imagine you're confident enough anyway as a Kerry man going into the championship this year.
Well, I suppose we won the league, which is a good thing. It's a good start. So we've got Cork now at the weekend, and it's do or die, which is good. Adds a bit of flavour and a bit of spice to it. So we have to get over Cork at the weekend, and then you look to the Munster final, and you take it one game at a time.
And I suppose, what did you make of the kind of two performances in the league? Obviously against Monaghan and Donegal, obviously two fairly decent victories. They definitely look like the most impressive team anyway, coming back off the restart. So what did you make of those two performances yourself?
I thought there were two very good performances, to be honest with you, given everything that's gone on this year and the difficulties faced by management and the players getting to where they want to be. The performance against Monaghan was good. The performance against Donegal was very good. The forwards are going really well. Our defence played quite well the last two games. I don't think, with two clean sheets actually. The last two games when there was no goals conceded, which is great. That's massive. So fellas looked really fit, and fellas looked hungry, and maybe that might have had something to do with the way the league and the club football played out this year. It seemed to me that by the time we got to the end of the club action in Kerry, that guys were chomping at the bit to get going in the intercounty scene, and I personally thought it was a great way to run it. I know the circumstances were different this year, and that might not be the case next year or the year after, but I think it was really beneficial, and there was a lot of eyes on club football, which may not normally be the case, but this year a huge amount of football was seen by an awful lot of people, and a lot of fellas stuck their hands up, and it was great. It was great to see. I was delighted to see it.
Yeah, no, there definitely was a lot of attention on the clubs this year, and even in particular, I think the Kerry, football championship definitely stood out quite a lot. There was a lot of really talented players there. You look at even Tony Brosnan and the campaign he had with Dr. Crokes, and now kind of getting into the Kerry team. So, how important do you think it was for that Kerry team to win the league? Obviously, because obviously they were beaten by Mayo in the final last year, and then obviously beaten by Dublin in the All Ireland final. So, how important do you think it was for Kerry to pick up, I suppose, a big piece of silverware? Because obviously, they're used to winning Munster titles as it is. So I suppose winning the league, I imagine that was, something of critical importance really at the start of the year.
Some people will say, the league is for show and it doesn't really matter. Obviously the most important thing of the year is the All Ireland, but it's when you're in it, it matters, and I think it should matter a bit more than it does. I'm sure it mattered a lot to the players playing in every league game. Every league game matters. The league, winning the league mattered. I think that people should be mindful to celebrate the small victories as well, and not just be focusing on the whole season down to one game in at the end of the championship. So, I think it's probably it was a great boost for the team to win the All-Ireland, or sorry, to win the league, especially after losing, last year. I suppose there's some element of vindication there for them that, they're not going to let this next trophy slip by them. And I'd say it, winning it in the manner they did will only contribute to the confidence that they have going forward in the championship. So I think it can mean a lot to the team if you want it to. But I think in an overall sense, I think it's important to celebrate the wins when you get them, because that will give you the enthusiasm and the encouragement to go on. So I think it was great. I couldn't ask for any more. Really, it was a great start to the season.
And I suppose, like, when you look at all these, very talented Kerry players that are coming through at the moment, the likes of your Cliffords, Shawnee O'Shea's, and even some of the other minor players that are coming through, do you think that this could maybe be like another kind of golden era for Kerry football, a bit like maybe the one in the 2000s, when you won a couple of All-Irelands that year or that decade?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always a possibility that this current bunch of players who are quite young and who are developing and growing at the same time. A lot of these guys in there right now, they've got 10 plus years probably inside there, some of them, which is a long time. So they have an opportunity there to build a legacy of some sort. I'd always be cautious enough of trying to, predict, what's going to happen over the next few years, or trying to compare them with the team from the noughties. There's some players on this team. I don't need to go into how good, Clifford is, or Shawnee Shea, or all those types of guys that we have. There's plenty of talent there. There's loads of football there. I think that there's a small bit of developing to go on, but that's the same as every team. The potential is huge. The potential is massive. They have it there. You need a bit of luck. You need to work hard, or attitude, all this stuff. But I'm sure that they have all those things. Attitude is right. Peter Keane has the right way. I'm sure that they're all very hungry. Then it comes down to a bit of luck. It comes down to, I suppose, the opposition you're up against too. That Dublin team over the last 5 years, everybody's gone toe to toe with them, but I don't think anyone's beaten them since when was it?
2014.
2014. Yeah. Was Donegal in the semi-final in 2014?
Yeah, Donegal were the last ones. Yeah,
we drew with them right in the league this year, which was a great game. I think that was January in Croke Park, or was it early February? Clifford kicked a score to draw it, and that was a great game to be at, actually. So I suppose, to go back to your question, yeah, I mean, there's huge potential here, but I'd be wary of drawing comparisons or placing too much expectation upon them at this stage. They still haven't got to, we still haven't won an All-Ireland in a while, so we need to break that first.
And I suppose, obviously, kind of moving on to Cork versus Kerry this weekend. Obviously, big rivalry between Cork and Kerry down the years. So I suppose, how are you feeling as a Kerry fan kind of going into that game?
Yeah, Park of Cleve, Sunday. It's 4 o'clock, I think. There'll be no one there. I don't know what the weather's going to be like on Sunday. I don't know what that surface is going to be like. Cork have we have about seven of these in a row now. I think against Cork. I think 2012 was the last time they won a Munster final against us. So I mean, look, you'd be telling lies if you didn't say I wasn't expecting Kerry to win at the weekend. But I'm sure the players, if you're talking to any of them, they'll tell you they're not taking it for granted, which is the standard answer that, every Gaelic footballer is going to give you the same answer. We're coming here today, we're not taking anything for granted. We know they're going to put it up against us, all that kind of stuff. But I think at the end of the day, I think, the Kerry forwards will probably be too hot to handle for the Cork defence, and I think that the Kerry defence may have solidified and maybe kind of moving in a better way than it was, and especially closing up the middle and stuff coming through that way. So I would expect, of course, I'm going to say that, but I would expect Kerry to win at the weekend. Could I give you a margin? Probably not more than 6, not less than 3. I have to.
Yeah. No, I'd fully expect Kerry as well to win that game quite comfortably. Like Cork, I think at times it is their defense. I think that's the biggest weakness. And even in that game versus Louth, they conceded a lot of city frees. They gave away a lot of easy chances. And I think Kerry are probably coming into this game a lot better prepared. The fact that they had their 2 league games against Monaghan and Donegal, and unfortunately, obviously Cork and Longford didn't go ahead. So, like, what kind of players in the Cork team do you think that you might be a bit wary of? Is there any players even maybe that you're kind of, you might be a bit wary of going into that game?
I mean, Cork have footballers. There's no question about it. They do have footballers. They've at midfield, what's his name? Maguire. They've got, your man Dean is still knocking around. Driscoll, Kerrigan, Hanlon. I know that they beat Louth fairly convincingly, but Louth are Division 4. I suppose we've had a bit stronger competition to prepare us for this, and against Monaghan and against Donegal. Our back unit is very solid. It's very solid there. Foley, Morley. It's actually it's been fairly consistent. As consistent as it can be. Tom Sullivan's playing really well. Gavin White, Crowley's there at centre back. Paul Murphy wing back. Midfield was looking good anyway. The last 2 occasions, Mourne with the new lad, Mr. O'Connor. So I would expect them to come out of the traps at 100 miles an hour on Sunday. I mean, Cork are going to do that too. Don't get me wrong. There's some serious scorers on that Cork team. The Cork minors as well, and the Cork under-20s have been producing serious footballers over the last year or two as well. And there's a lot of they've been beating us at underage, and producing some really good forwards. I think I was at a McGrath Cup game. I think it was during December. I think Kerry senior team were down in Thailand or something. But obviously, the players that were on the pitch weren't, first string. But some of the Cork footballers that were playing that day, the forwards, they were kicking unbelievable scores in Austin Stack Park. I can't remember what day that was now, but it was during the Christmas. It was quite a cold day inside in Tralee, but it was dry. But Cork outplayed us, and there was some serious footballers in that team. I don't know where they are now. I didn't even have a program on the day, but I look, the backs are going to be on their toes all day, and you're going to earn it any day against Cork. You're going to earn it.
Yeah, and I suppose like with Kerry and Cork, with the rivalry there, I think it's always form kind of goes out the window in many ways, doesn't it? Like, I mean, when you look at the game last year, there was only a point between you, I think, in the end. And I think a lot of people felt, because obviously Cork had just been relegated to Division 3, I think a lot of people felt that Kerry were just going to steamroll Cork, but actually that didn't prove to be the case. Obviously, you kind of touched a bit on kind of Kerry's defensive setup a little bit. Like, why do you think Peter Keane has kind of reverted a little bit to being a bit more defensive this year? Do you think maybe, he's looking to change things up a bit, or what do you kind of put it down to?
Well, I think we took a lot of stick last year and the year previous. Leaky was a word that was being thrown around quite a lot. We were maybe leaking a lot of goals. And, you can have great forwards sticking over points up, but if you're leaking goals at the back, It's it's a hard it's hard to kind of to minimize that damage. It's so I think a lot of the focus was to kind of solidify up the defense really over the last year or two. And I think so far this year anyway, the two, the defensive performances have been fairly good. There was a few goals scored against us all right in the league. Dublin got one against us. Did Mayo get one? I don't know, but Mead. But I think in general we've been doing a lot better in the backs than we were before. So you couple that with strong forwards, and that's kind of the recipe for success. So I think that the backs have improved a huge amount anyway, in setup and I suppose performance wise. So they probably only have more, little bit more improving to do, as every team does. But I'm expecting good performance from the Kerry defence. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I suppose it will be a good test as well, because obviously, as you were saying, like a lot of very talented forwards in that Cork team, and I think they might have been the highest scorers actually in the entire like National League pyramid between all four divisions. So that definitely will be quite a test, and definitely a game I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah.
Obviously, like if you were to get through that, it'd be Limerick or Tip in the final. I mean, I suppose you'd be confident enough then, obviously, that you're going to be in the All Ireland semis after that. Anyway, I mean, either one of them teams might cause a few problems, but you'd have to fancy your chances, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, you fancy your chances, of course. Like, but the one thing that is different this year is the fact that it's you're only getting one bite at the cherry. And if you're not right on the day, you're not right in the day. Sometimes that favors the underdog, sometimes it doesn't. But if you have all your ducks in a row, everything has been going according to plan behind in training. You'd expect that not to make much of a difference. But you just can't take anything for granted. But yeah, I mean, if Kerry get over Cork on Sunday, you'd expect Kerry to come through the Munster final. You would be expecting that, and be the players, the management would be extremely disappointed themselves if that didn't come to pass. But we'll see. That's like Peter Keane would say after every interview, we'll take it one bite at a time.
And I suppose, like, is the expectation even there maybe to actually win the All Ireland? Do you think for Kerry is that the ultimate goal for this year? Do you think?
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, you're going to have probably Donegal, Mayo, Dublin ourselves. Probably. A week or two ago, some people might have said, "Oh, maybe Galway," but perhaps not now. So look, I suppose at the end of the day, you listen to a lot of this stuff in the media, and you read a lot, and everybody's telling you that Kerry's probably the only team that's going to put it up to Dublin this year. And if Kerry don't beat them, nobody will beat them. I don't know how true that is really, because technically, on any one day in one game, any team can win, but nobody's been able to do it for a long time. It's time someone beat Dublin. I think there's a lot of Kerry players there on that team who would love to dish out some justice for last year, especially for the first game, because I'd say that's still stinging. So of course, yeah, you'd be hoping to win, so we'll see how it goes,
Yeah, and I suppose even like Donegal, they could even push Dublin very close even in that semi-final. Like it's not even a given that Dublin make the final and play Kerry. Like it could easily be Donegal. Like for myself personally, as a Dublin fan, obviously I do think Kerry are probably the only team I think that could beat us this year. Personally, I feel like, I've seen Dublin against Mayo before in the past, and we always seem to find a way. But in that game, Kerry in the first game, that was the first time really during that kind of 5-year stint where I thought, we actually might be beaten here. But
it was close.
Yeah, it was very close. It was very worrying, but thankfully anyway, Dean Rock leveled it up and suppose the rest was kind of history.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do
You
have
never know. You're shouting for Donegal that day, of course. You know, the day that, you know, should they be against you guys, of course. But
yeah. Oh, I don't know. I think I'd go under a rock maybe if that happened for the All Ireland final. Just
yeah,
pray
well,
on Christmas.
you'll have to find the rock and go under at some stage, because this run is going to have to come to an end.
Yeah, I know it definitely will, but I don't want to think about that until it does.
No.
But I suppose, like, obviously with Kerry, I mean, you do have, you know, a lot of very good minor players coming through at the moment. And even kind of watching all those minor players coming through, like Clifford and Sean O'Shea, and you got even Paul Walsh in there at the moment as well. Like, what's it been like, obviously, seeing the success of that Kerry minor team? Like, I'd imagine it's kind of definitely brings a lot of excitement anyway to Kerry fans when they see, you know, the skill level of that team and how well you're winning as well.
Oh yeah, it was massive at the time. And you know, to do that many minor championships in a row was brilliant, and especially at a time when we weren't doing it on the senior setting. It almost made the minor wins matter that bit more, because they got a small bit more time in the limelight. People were more acquainted with who was on the minor team, who wasn't on the minor team. Whereas if the seniors were there those years and winning, you know, the minors would have fallen into the background. They're the second bus, you know, coming up behind the seniors. But the quality of the football that, you know, that we saw during some of those minor games was unbelievable. And a lot of these guys have one or two All-Ireland medals. So it's just some unreal footballers. I mean, you know, we keep going back to Clifford, but Sean O'Shea all throughout all that, you know, Gavin White, Micheál Burns. Some massive performances were put in by those fellas in minor jerseys as well. It was actually quite, it was important that we kind of, I think, for our own self-confidence down in Kerry, that we remained at the top of some sort of tree over the last few years, even if it wasn't senior. And it did fuel a lot of speculation about, you know, the conveyor belt starting back up again, and which is true to an extent. But, you know, we all know that minor success doesn't necessarily translate to senior success. But, you know, I suppose we'll find out fairly soon.
And I suppose, obviously, looking at David Clifford and kind of the year he's had and some of the, you know, the goals he scored, the points he scored, and year on year, he seems to be getting better and better. So if Kerry were to go all the way, let's say, and win an All-Ireland or even make a final, would you fancy that Clifford could potentially be the Footballer of the Year, do you think, in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's also probable if he continues to play the way he's playing. I mean, the goal he got, and I was sick of seeing it myself. You know, by the time the county club setup was finished, I mean, that goal that he got, the points he got in the last two games when he wasn't even and going 100 miles an hour. You know, he's after getting a bit stronger. You can see his touches he just seems to be getting better every game. His movement off the ball is excellent, but he's got some really good fellas around him now. He had that, but I mean, you know, Tony Brosnan's after coming in. I mean, he's been a breath of fresh air. You know, so I'm looking forward to seeing the two of them develop. Darren Moynihan's great, always working very hard, providing the ball to other people, not obsessed with whether or not he gets a score himself, but wants to contribute to the score. You know, and then Sean O'Shea is hands down one of the best footballers in the country, even at his young age. There's nothing that he hasn't got in his game. And even a while ago, it was Kieran Donaghy who made the point that he would consider even trying or testing out Shawnee at midfield, because he's so good on the ball and good at spraying it around. And he said that maybe that could open up a possibility to give someone like Paudie Clifford a run in the half forward line, because he's a needly guy. He's obviously he's a great footballer as well. But hunger hunger in him. So because there's so many quality footballers there, you're not short of options.
Yeah, I suppose because there's a lot of options even coming off the bench as well, isn't there? Like,
Massive.
Yeah, Paul Gainey didn't even play in those 2 league games, and then
James Bennett, who hasn't played.
Tommy Walsh
Jack Barry's to come back. Tommy Walsh. There's an awful lot of Killian Spillane. Killian Spillane is a fantastic footballer. Really, this football oozing out of him. So he's yet to get that proper run that that he will get at some stage. But the talent on is crazy. It's great.
And I suppose if Kerry are to meet Dublin in the All Ireland final in December, let's say, like what do you think needs to happen for Kerry to win it? Because obviously last year Dublin obviously got over the line in the end. So like, where do you think maybe the key battles will be won, or what do you think needs to change?
What needs to change? Well, I suppose a nice segue, I suppose, from that into, let's say, the Cork game. There have been a lot of Kerry players who won't have experienced any loss to Cork. Some of these players at the weekend, they've never really lost to Cork, even, I suppose, minor and under 20. But the opposite of that would be true against Dublin. They've been on the receiving end of a few bad days, in Croke Park or wherever, or getting draws against them in the league. Maybe we should have won. Not winning on the first day and the final. So I suppose a lot of it is between the 2 ears, because they have the football. Dublin, yeah, there'd be every position would be a key battle, to be honest with you. I could break it down to 2 or 3. Yeah, but an inch, or as Paddy, I suppose, is famous for saying, a grain of rice will tip the scale. And on a day like that, when you're playing against Dublin, it is down to things like that. The tiniest little things will have a ripple effect through the game, and that will decide who wins or who doesn't. Attitude is massive. You do need luck. You always need luck. You won't win an All-Ireland with no luck. You need luck, but you need to perform as well. And you're also hoping that the other team, maybe they don't come out and perform at 100%. Maybe Rock sticks a few wide. Maybe their backs foul Clifford a few more times than they want to. So there's just so many variables. But I think that it'd be great if if it was Kerry and Dublin in the final come December, whatever the date is, the 19th, or I don't know what date it is, but it would be strange seeing an All-Ireland final being played in December. I wonder what the weather would be like. How cold will it be? Will there be sleet? Could there even be snow? There probably wouldn't be snow, but there could be that really cold, wind and rain coming in from the side. That would dictate tactics and how people were aggressive with the ball or not, or going forward. So I'd love to see Kerry Dublin final, and to put it to bed then the first day, not the second day.
Yeah, and I suppose obviously, like even with the conditions, that is one that it kind of is the unknown in many ways. Like, it is a very hard one to call at the moment, because I think we even seen in the Monaghan Cavan game, for example, the breeze makes a massive difference, I think, in games now. Like you seen in that second half when the breeze was with Cavan, don't get me wrong, I think there was more into it than just the breeze that helped them come back. But I think that definitely made a massive difference. And going into a potential final with Kerry Dublin, I think conditions again could definitely play a massive part.
Massive, and it does every year, but this year probably especially so, because we're at the winter end of the year and it's a summer game. It's meant for, it's designed, or it's played best in dry weather. Hard pitch, fast paced. Whereas you have the complete opposite in wet and windy conditions. The pitch is slow, the players are slow. The footing is poor. Guys might be less inclined to run with the ball because, if they go into contact, God knows what's going to happen. You could get injured, the ball could come flying out of your hands. So the weather directly impacts on the style of play and the quality of the play. And as you say, the wind as well is, you're far more likely to have a windy day in December than you are in Ireland. I know it's been always up in the air, but it's more probable that the wind and the rain will play more of a factor in December than it would during the summer months. So definitely the weather is another huge thing.
And obviously for yourself, obviously setting up the Kerry Franchise page on Instagram, like how did you go about setting that up, and kind of what was your thinking behind that?
Well, I set it up on Facebook first. I think it's about 5 years ago now. I set it up. I set it up actually because I was attending this evening diploma course in journalism at the time. It was just something I was interested in, so I did this evening course. And one of the homework assignments was set up some sort of a thing that allows you to communicate with the public. So I just came in next week and I said, I set up a Kerry GAA page on Facebook. And obviously because I'm interested in it, that's what I chose. But that's what's actually made me do it. So I just set it up, and I think it was before the All-Ireland or something like that. And I think in a week or two, I had 8 followers or something. I think
Yeah.
seriously, literally had about 8 or something like that, 16 followers. And, within a month or two, I think maybe within 2 or 3 months, I had 100. I mean, it was desperate slow. But, I enjoyed it. I was doing it for me. I wasn't really doing it for anyone else. And, so I enjoyed it. I just stick with it. And then I kind of got onto Instagram. I set up the page on Instagram last year, but I really set it up and I didn't do anything with it for months and months and months. And I didn't properly start kind of producing stuff on and kind of spending time on Instagram until maybe around April or May of this year. And I was only at a few hundred even at that time, but I suppose growth has been I'm fairly happy with it, to be honest with you. And since then, I think I'm at 3,000, under 4,000 now. So about 3,000 followers since May or June. So I was happy with that. And I got on TikTok as well, just for the crack.
Yeah, I still haven't fully figured TikTok out myself, to be honest. I put
there's two
little
of us
bits
there,
and bobs, but I don't know. It's mad. You can put something up there and it can get 60, 70,000 views, and then you put something up else and it's 200, and it's yeah.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat as you. I just said I'd set it up because sure, look, may as well set it up. I'm not on Twitter. I think that's enough platforms, to be honest with you, at the moment.
Yeah.
I need to try and get some sort of YouTube channel. I set up as a YouTube channel, but now it's a matter of uploading all the stuff onto it, and that's just time.
Yeah.
So that's where I am with it.
Well, I suppose the hardest thing with most things is just to get started. Even when it comes to going to the gym or anything really, in most cases, once you get started and you build a routine, you can kind of follow it. Like for me, normally when I kind of started out, it was definitely very inconsistent with the videos and kind of uploading videos, but definitely I'd say kind of from April, May onwards anyway, I've definitely been a way more kind of consistent and had a way more.
When did you start it up?
So I would have started in 2018.
Okay.
So that was actually when I first uploaded a few videos. And basically how it all kind of came about was I was living abroad for probably about 2 to 3 years. So I lived in Canada in 2015, and then in 2016 I basically was going interrailing, was traveling. One of my mates was living over in France, and then 2017 I was on a J1 in San Diego. And during those 3 years, it was very hard to kind of keep in touch, I found, with the GA, very hard to kind of see, content. There wasn't it's definitely improved a lot more in the past year or so, I'd say, especially with the lockdown, but there really wasn't much going on. There wasn't much, you only kind of had your stuff on GA Go or RTE and your traditionals, and, that wasn't really cutting it for me. So that's kind of how, I came about. But I'd say I say, yeah, 2018 and 2019, the last 2 years, very inconsistent probably with uploads. And I'd say probably since the lockdown, definitely, with a lot more time on my hands, I've probably been way more consistent, I'd say. So
you've grown fairly fast, and you're up to you're not to be quoting numbers and stuff like that. Not that numbers, it's not the most important thing, of course. Like, no, but I mean, not. It's an indicator. But you're close to 9,000 or 10,000 on Instagram, which is a fair haul, in my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's grown pretty well. It's definitely takes time. It's, again, I don't worry too much about numbers, and even on YouTube sometimes with subscribers, I don't really look too much into it. It's kind of, if the numbers were going down, maybe then I'd kind of be like, okay, maybe something's not working here. But kind of a bit like yourself, I just enjoy this, and this is just a hobby, so
you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't enjoy it, and if you had, didn't have genuine interest in the subject, and that you get some enjoyment out of reading it, watching it, talking about it, discussing it, thinking about it, So yeah, it's out of the love of it, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And look, listen, hopefully anyway, it can both keep go well for both ourselves. And sure, yeah, if you do set up a YouTube channel at any point, I'll definitely help you out in the best way I can anyways.
Sounds good to me, man.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I think we'll wrap this up here anyway. Daniel, it was good speaking to you, and yeah, cheers for your time.
Cheers, man. Thanks a million. Take care.